All right. Get started today for our live stream. I think we're probably going to go at least an hour to between an hour and 2 hours. Kind of just showing some different things. My plan for today. Also, let me know if the mic volume is like distorting or anything. In the past, my microphone has just been too quiet, and I've been trying different things to make it louder, but then it distorts and all sorts of cool stuff. So if you're listening and it's destroying your ears, let me know, because we don't want that. All right, so let's see here. Cool. So my plan today was to, so I'm just scared that this is distorting. Anyways, I'll just leave it for now. But so my plan today was to kind of go over this set that we had. Okay, thanks, Sean. Appreciate your feedback. I'm just so self-conscious of this. I also definitely don't want to be annoying anyone. It's nothing worse than like having to sit through 2 hours of something and the audio just sounds terrible. So anyways, yeah, so my plan today was to go over this project, which I made like 2 days ago, and then I just made a short video on it that I sent out yesterday just to kind of show what it was about, and to explain this if you haven't like seen the shorter video that I made. This is just a recreation of the Google Cloud Next conference. And it was a pretty cool set. I saw it was fairly unique, and I just wanted to kind of create something that had a similar customized look to it. You know, a lot of stuff in our program here in RenderNow is set up to easily create sort of your more common types of setups, whether it's staging, drapery, uplighting, downlighting, some sort of standard scenery that you might get from vendors and that sort of stuff. So, and that's all awesome. We're always trying to make that more accessible and easier to put together. But if you ever, in a lot of situations, maybe it's just 1 or 2 or 3 small things that you want to be able to customize. So I kind of everything in here is somewhat customized, I guess. Especially this stuff all around the stage here. So anyways, I put this together in hopes that it would at least give some people some ideas on how to do something that's a little bit more customized. While the program is not a 3D modeling program at all, you can still create some of this stuff without having it to be a full-on 3D modeling program. So obviously a lot of this stuff is going to be a little more minimal than your specific 3D modeled stuff. So let's say these scenery pieces over here are pretty basic looking compared to if I were to drag out a actual decor piece that was modeled to be like this, right? So this actually has 3D depth to it and all that sort of stuff. But if you're just trying to kind of get a basic idea of what something will look like, you can use these methods to do this. So without further ado, I'll probably go ahead and recreate this again. And if you're watching live, you kind of have the advantage to either say, hey, Eric, don't work on that project you're about to work on because I have a more important question for you, or I want to see something else. That's half the reason that I do these live streams, is because I want people to actually get what's important to them out of it. So if you have any actual real practical questions, then definitely let me know, and then we can kind of go in that direction. But otherwise, the other half of the reason that I do this is just to keep myself relevant in creating new designs, but also show people how to do different types of designs as well. So so let me know if there's anything pressing or more important. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a new Friday stream here so we can recreate this. So I'll call it Friday stream 24. What's the date? 5/3. And we'll go from here. All right, load the new project. So when I create a new project here, based off the one that I just had open, it's basically like a save as feature. So it's just going to create a duplicate of that project. So now I have that project in two areas. So the one that I just created is right here in my Friday streams folder. And then the original one that I'd created was back here in this videos folder called Google Next example. Alrighty then. Cool. So let me explain a couple things here before I kind of get started. I'll probably go through each section, just delete the section and kind of recreate it for now. So let me explain a couple things here real quick. For the room, I just have a basic room, which I added in with this room section here. Looks like it's 140 by 150 feet. And if I increase the intensity of the room over here in this venue section, you can see what the room looks like. In a lot of scenarios, you know, if you don't have the time, or let's say you're creating a design that you don't know is going to actually be sold, it doesn't always necessarily make sense to spend a bunch of time creating the room look, because what you're basically trying to show your client or your decision maker is the look of the design that's in the room. So in that case, I might just create a room with this feature where it's just a basic rectangular room, and I can modify a couple things like the floor maybe. And once I've done that, then I might just decrease the lighting in the room, and then kind of go from there. But when I'm creating the room, I usually do keep the lighting up a little bit, so it's just a little bit easier to see some things. I also might make sure that this contrast button is on, which helps me see the darker elements in the room. So it's a subtle thing, but if I turn this contrast button off, basically the contrast button, when it's on, creates a little bit of contrast for all of the objects by adding a subtle outline to all of the objects. And this is done just to make the whole scene a little bit easier to see when it's in a dark room like this. So that's just a little tip there. You could also turn on this grid. Sometimes I have to click it twice because of the setting that it's already on. If I select this, this is cool too because it outlines everything, but it can then be a little bit hard to see what your design actually looks like because everything's so outlined. You could also change the color if I wanted to basically just see the outlines of all the objects too. And I could do the base colors to see just the base color of everything as well. But I'll just turn this off for now, and we'll go back to our kind of default. All right, so let me start in with the seating. I'll probably just go ahead and delete the seating for now, because I would typically start with no seating first, and so I'm just focusing on the set here. I'm also going to go ahead and just delete all these, I don't know what you call these. There's like, you know, aesthetic, kinetic, motorized light spheres. I don't know if there's an official name for those. Maybe I just created it. All right, let's start with the stage because this is probably one of the more like important aspects. So what I'm going to do, I'll try to get the same look here. I'm also going to delete this projector. So should I delete it or should I just turn it off for now? All right, so what I would start with is a basic object. You could start in one of two ways. I'm going to remove all these because I kind of want to, you can see it's just a plethora of stage pieces here. I kind of want this space open to be able to start creating a stage. So what I'm going to do is I could start one of two ways. One is that I could go in this stage section under build and just start with like a basic shape. You could try out any of these to see what I want. So if you know the exact dimensions that you want, you could mess with these and say, you know, maybe I want like a 40 foot by 40 foot half circle, or a full circle or a triangle. And from here, like if you wanted to start with a triangle, then you could start there and modify it. So maybe I change it to this, and then from here, maybe I'm going to place it. Actually, before I do that, if you want your camera to focus in on any objects, by the way, either hit the F key on your keyboard. Up here in shortcuts, we do not have it labeled right now, but the F key will focus in sort of, or like zoom into the object that you have selected. So if I hit the F key, it's going to focus in on this object and then zoom around. So a very nice thing to have, right? It's the same thing with the top view too. If I focus in there, it'll just focus on there. So, all right, I think I want to change the height of this. I think we were at like 3 feet, close to 3 feet. Let's do 3 feet. I'll move her up a tad. Okay, so I have this shape. I don't think I'm going to do this because I want to recreate what I had originally, but I'm just trying to show you some examples here. So if I were to have that, and then maybe I hit this place button because I want to keep this triangle shape here. And then I want to make another shape behind it. So since I hit that place button, now this triangle is actually going to stay here. So place, even though it might be a little confusing, which eventually, you know, all of the things in this program we're trying to make more obvious as to what they do, but in some circumstances it's not super obvious. So the place button will keep the object that you just put there there. So if I were to delete that object and I didn't hit the place button, then whatever I selected next would replace the object. So all right, so I'm going to change that to that, place it, and then I'm going to add a rectangle to this, and we'll say we want the depth to be more like 15 feet maybe, and then we'll do like a wide 60 foot, this rectangle. So we have a rectangle, we have a half circle, oval, another triangle. This could be kind of cool if you were really concepting here, but we'll just stick with a rectangle for now. Change this again, and I'm just going to move this back here. I can go to my top view. To get to my top view and different camera views, you can use this camera button here and just switch between all the camera views, but that would be the slow, inexperienced way. Not to diss on anyone, obviously it takes time to learn anything, but if you want to fast track your life, just use these 1 through 5 buttons on your keyboard to change to the different camera views, and then O on your camera on your keyboard will change you back to the orbit view. So 2 and O is where I usually switch back and forth between a lot. All right, so I'm going to move this. Oh, and F2, the F key is where I usually, so it's like 2, F, and O is I'm using those keys a lot. And then to move my whole camera around, you can either orbit around with the right mouse button like this. Whoops. The right mouse button to orbit. And then your Q, W, E, A, S, D keys on your keyboard will move the camera up and down and around, kind of like a video game. You don't need to use them that often, but I kind of use them a decent amount. Okay, so let's say we had this shape. I will make a better shape than this, but I just kind of want to explain how to do something like this real quick. From here, you know, we gave it the exact dimensions we wanted, but if you wanted to change it and stuff and kind of like, again, abstract it to make it look the way that you want it to, from here, to do that, I would just then start scaling things, right? So like this. So you change the move button to scale, and then you're just going to start scaling things. And the reason maybe to do this, or for doing this, would be that you're just trying to concept and get an idea. And then afterwards, you could go in your top view. And if I click and drag, I could now say, okay, the size of this triangular part is 29, so about 30 feet by about 30 feet wide this way. So whenever I click and drag, it will show me the dimensions that I'm dragging in. And if I were to drag from here to the tip of the triangle, it'll show me that it's about 16.5 feet or so. So that's just a quick way to get a measurement. You just kind of click and drag to see that. You could also mark it up for later if you wanted to use this ruler button and to just always know the size of it. You just click and drag this way. And now I can see that that is 60 feet, and that'll always be there unless I click it and delete it. All right. Hopefully everything makes sense so far. I'm not boring anyone. It looks like we got someone that left. Hopefully it was just because they had to go. We'll say that that was the case. Okay. So that's how you do that. I just actually had a question this morning about someone that wanted to create the LED like lines around the stage. So let's say that these stages were black. So we can change the color of these stages after you've selected the stage and everything and put a material on it. You can then go in afterwards and change the color of it. So if I were to select both of these and then change the color, you know, maybe I wanted it to be black or something, and then I wanted to add like an LED light around it. Well, instead of creating like individual LED lights to kind of go around it, what I would do is just duplicate these and then scale them down and make sure this works correctly. You might have to scale them individually, so I might select just the triangle part here and then put it out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of it. Oh, you know what? I actually lied. You can't do it with this option. So I'm going to have to get out of this. So you actually are limited a little bit if you use these stage options here to do what I'm doing. If you want a little bit more flexibility, you have to go into the Add Objects button here and then Shapes. And then from here, these shapes will allow you to do some more stuff. So for getting like that LED outline, which I was trying to do, you would then select the shape that you wanted to change. So let's say I wanted the shape to be like this. And let's say it was the size of this. I would then go in and change the color to like a white or something. And then I could actually make it glow by increasing the intensity. So in that case, I would go, let's say, to like here. Let me see if I can get this to be the same size about. I'm probably just going to rough this in. Might not look perfect, but we'll see. Yeah, so far I did a pretty bad job of this, but and what you're going to want to do now is bring it out a little bit, bring it down a little bit, and then I would actually want to duplicate the one that's below it, move it a little bit forward and then a little bit down. And so fairly easily we got this outline here, as you can see there. So that's kind of how you would do something like that. So let's go back to the original example I had where I was creating that other type of stage. So to create that kind of rounded stage with the shapes, it does take a little bit of time because you're combining like 3 or 4 different types of shapes. So let's drag out the cylinder here. And I can make sure that it's in the center if I go to this top view and then just put it right in this red center line here. And then I could change the dimensions over here too. So I could say we want it to be like 16 by 16, 3 feet high. And we'll say that's kind of our starting point. And so from here, again, I might change the color to like a black. I think we did white in our example. So I'm going to change it to white. I'm going to change the gloss to be super glossy. And then from here, I'm going to basically just create the rest of the shapes. So I would drag in a cube and kind of do the same thing. Maybe let's try the same sizes here. I'm not really thinking too much about this mathematically, but maybe in a real world setting, you'd want to do some specific dimensions that would make sense practically. So so you might do that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just kind of rotating my rectangle to get this sort of shape here. So basically the outline that I'm looking for is like a straight line to this curved thrust sort of that will be over here. Go back to this view. And once I change the color, it will start to blend, so you won't really see where the two objects start and end. Cool, it's already looking pretty sweet. I mean, you could do a lot of things with this. You could I already want to make this like a completely different customized thing so that it is way more interesting. So I would do something like 60, whoops. I already think this is cooler, personally. I don't know what Google Next was thinking by not doing this, but I dig this. But anyways, we'll do the whole thing. So from here, I would just duplicate this guy again, and then you're going to want to rotate it to be the opposite way. To get the exact rotation, you could set your rotate settings over here to be an exact amount so that you know exactly how far you want to rotate it. But I could do this kind of just by sight here, which looks like that's about right. If I move this out of the way, we can go in here and say, all right, the edge of this is 6.3 feet, and the edge of this is 6.3 feet as well, so that's correct. I'll add back in my shape here. I think that was pretty much the shape. I think it might have been a little bit more or deeper, right? So I would change this to like 40. That's probably way too deep, but maybe like 30. Something like this, because the 25, because basically you had this back area where then people would walk in and stuff. All right, so we're just going to duplicate some of these things and create the front and then LED outline. So I'm going to duplicate, scale them all down a bit, move them forward a bit like this. And we'll say that this is the front and it'll be black. And maybe you don't want it to be glossy or just slightly glossy. I need to make this a little bit wider. Okay, and from here, I'm going to select this. I'm going to select all these again and duplicate it one more time. Move it back just a tad. So this is kind of subtle, but this is how I get the outlines. If I go too tall, it's going to take over the thing. Let me change the color of it to white and then increase the intensity, and this will make it glow. You can see that it's overlapping right now, so what I want to do is just move it back slightly like this, and then this spot over here is just overlapping again, so what I want to do is select it, make sure I have it selected. I can undo to put it back, and then I'm just going to make it a little bit less that way. And so there I have my outline stage. I do this often, with, especially like if you had the, if you had the stage top in a black, let's say this was like a dark gray or black or something, and maybe you just wanted like some tape outline, because even that will make a big difference in the look of it. I would just turn this down. And now you just have this white outline there, which at least like gives an outline on the stage rather than having nothing. Move this back just a tad. Cool. All right, so that's pretty cool. I dig that. I kind of let's we'll modify this so that it's different than the one that I started with a little bit. So I'm gonna make this a little bit wider again, and I'm going to just adjust this a little bit. And I kind of want to change the color of these, so these will still be LED. Make sure I'm selecting the right thing here. Okay, so I'm going to select all these. It's kind of hard to select them. And then I'm going to change the color. So it's kind of a glowing thing. And you could also, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier, but I should group them together. Which I might have accidentally grouped the wrong one. But yeah, I accidentally grouped the wrong one. So sorry, if you mess up like this, it might just take you a second to get back because I have two objects here. Let's ungroup. Just want to make sure I'm selecting the right things. I should have grouped these from the start probably, which would have made it a lot easier. All right, I'm going to do this one more time and group these guys. And I'm actually just going to move it out of the way so I can see this better. Change this to white. And then group these ones. Okay, now this is in a group. This is in a group. I can move this back. Move this out of the way. And I'll group that as well. Okay. All right, now I have my three layers here. This obviously helps when you're doing something like I'm doing, where you have a bunch of objects that you just want to group them together to make them one. Okay, so from here I'm going to change the color of this and increase the intensity. Bring this back down. And if you ever want to adjust some of them, so maybe I want them to be less like thick or something, for one I might just move this up so that it's not taking up as much of the space. But if you want to move an individual one, you just go to selection and then unlock the group here, and then you can adjust individual pieces there. Cool, but now I can just select this one group and adjust the color. Say we want to do like a bright yellow or something. Super bright. Okay, cool. So that's that stage, and that's some different options you can do there. If I select this, I also have the option to adjust the gloss again. You can kind of change that, as well as maybe the color a little bit. So we just want only blue. All right, we'll just stick with that for the moment. All right, so let's move on to these backdrop pieces here. These are pretty similar to how we did this, except for this we're just adding some textures to them. So let me remove these again, and I'll kind of show you what we did here. And you can see back here is just another screen. Okay, so for that, I think I did the same thing. I just used these basic shapes again. So I brought in a cylinder here. If you want to rotate it by 90 degrees, you can do that. Or maybe I might start off by changing it to, again, let's say, if you knew the dimensions, we'll just say we want it to be 12 feet by 12 feet. And then the thickness of it is going to be maybe 6 inches or something. And then I want to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to hit my F key again to focus in on it. So it's definitely too small, so I'm probably just, I could, again, let's change this, 15. So if I were to duplicate her, bring her over here, we can kind of get an idea of how tall this little entranceway needs to be. So let's say like 18. Might still be too small, 20, 20. This would actually be kind of cool too if you had it extend over this, but that's not how they did it. So I might need to make this a little wider. Let's see if I ungroup this all and select all these guys. I think it's not going to, yeah, I guess I can just do this. Okay, something like that. We'll stick with that. I think the reason why this seems off to me is that I think it was like, I think that it was more like oval shaped, maybe. I could be wrong. But I think I had more of an oval shaped. It's either that or it was like really large and then you only saw this portion of it. Something like that. So in this case, you would, you know, kind of need to hide whatever's behind there, which, you know, you can't really see it unless you're over here. You could put something in front of it, but we'll go with that. So from here now, I got this shape that I want. I'm going to go over my images, and then I already uploaded a wooden texture, so I can just add this wood texture to it. And from here, I can adjust the wood texture to look more like, you know, like it's just like the way I want it, so I can change it. So if I go over here, I have a few different options. I can adjust the intensity of it. So this kind of, this shape has the ability to make things have sort of illumination to it. So what I want to do is adjust the light spill so that basically light will spill onto it so that it looks like a sort of wood material. And I'm going to bring this intensity down so that it doesn't look like it's glowing. And then I can potentially change, see, you're going to change the color of this. No. From here, I think if I do this, all right, from here I'm going to go over to these stretch and scale sliders right here, and this allows me to adjust the texture, so I can basically stretch it this way so that the texture is like this. And I thought, I could be wrong, let me play with this for a second, but I don't know, I could have swore I could change the color of this. Yeah, I don't know why it's not letting me change the color of the other one. So you can see I can change the color of this to get it to kind of look like whatever color I want it to be. I must be doing something wrong here. Oh, I think I know. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I know what I did. I think there's a little rule in this, which I think we probably need to fix, but I believe that you need to change the color of the shape first. So if I were to drag this in and then change the color of it to whatever, and then add the texture, that now I can change the, yeah, now I can change the color of it. So if you add the color first, then it allows you to do both, and that gives you a little more customizing options. So from here, 26 by 26, I'll just remove that and replace it with this. So 26. Not a huge deal. Cool. All right, so we got that. I'm going to stretch the texture, and then I'm going to change the color a little bit. Kind of want this like yellowish, reddish wood, so I can kind of adjust that. So you're kind of doing a mixture between what the color of the object looks like and what the texture looks like. You can adjust these settings to kind of get what you want, if you want any gloss to it or not. We'll just do something like this. Looks fairly close to what I had originally. I think a lot of this light is spilling onto it from over here. All right, so let's move on. So from here, I think what I did from here is just duplicated this, moved another one up, and then made a smaller version of this. So let's say this is the entranceway that the person can come out of. And I just basically made a darker thing here. So I lowered the intensity and then just lowered the color to a darker color. And maybe you change this light spill. Cool, so something like that. And then I'll do it one more time, duplicate it again, and then I'm just going to scale this out a little bit to make it a little larger. And then I'm going to increase the intensity a bunch. Now it's kind of overlapping, so I just need to move it back a little. And then I'm going to scale it down a little bit again. Cool, so now I have that kind of circular entranceway look. And kind of like before, I think you could do a bunch of different options here, where if you were to want to kind of make this more of a cube-shaped entrance or a rectangular entrance. Let's see, 16. What am I trying to do here? 0.5 by 16 feet high. No, 10, maybe 8 feet high. So if we wanted to do something like this, or around the edges, basically you would do this. This is a kind of a bad example I'm doing here, but I would do this. I would change the color, and then I would add that texture. And then from there, I would do this. I would make a much smaller shape. Yeah, I don't think this is going to look very good because I'm just doing it over top of this, but maybe we'll get it close to what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so basically I'm trying to make like a little different shape out of this. And then you could, to make this a rectangular just with rounded corners, again, let's try to do this much smaller. So we'll do like 3. At this point, I'm probably boring the heck out of you, so I really apologize. But if you're a true hardcore designer, you'll be like, yes, this is great. But anyway, so I was just trying to make a sort of quick and dirty corner to this. So kind of good enough for my purposes. Anyways, just an example of that. But that looks pretty weird, so we're going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so I think you understand now, hopefully, how to do that sort of thing. I need to move these pieces forward to here. We also did a rectangular sort of steps down right here. So I think to do something like that again, I could do a couple things. One is I could take this and duplicate it, move it up a little. Maybe I change the size to like 10 feet by something like this. Maybe a little larger than this. And then I'm going to duplicate again and do just another step. And you can always spend more time getting the dimensions right if you want to adjust these to be a specific size and all that, right? And this seems a little bit off because she's going to hit her head over there almost. You probably want some more space under that screen. But you get the idea. You'd probably want to mess with this a bit. And from here, I might duplicate this again. Actually, I think in the example they had, these were actually like fully glowing stairs. Cool. I think these are a little too bright, but just playing with some of these settings here. Trying to make something that looks decent. That looks okay. All right, so we got that. Kind of want to adjust the darkness of this. Make it a little darker. Something like that. Okay, let's move on to this part right here real quick. So these are pretty simple. Basically what I have here, if I duplicate this, is just a rectangular shape, which I think I did a similar thing of just turn on my shadows. I didn't realize I had my shadows turned off. So basically this is again just another cube I dragged out. So I was playing around with like decor pieces, but again, in this scenario, these are all kind of custom objects again. So I would, have tried to, and I think originally I was playing a little bit with instead using like some specific decor that was already in our library, like this. If I delete some of these. This is kind of... Oh, I see. You can kind of see through that, so basically I have some LED lights here and they're lighting this area. But what I was saying is that I was playing around a little bit with just using some decor that we have from some vendors so that you wouldn't, just as an option, so that you wouldn't necessarily need to use a custom object. So if you wanted to play with this, then you could just do something like these, right? But if you wanted it to be a custom object, so in that case, in the case of the original look of it, it was more like a corrugated plastic. So what I did is I just dragged out a cube and then I scaled it up to be, let's say it was 4 by 8, or no, 4 by 0.1 by 8 feet high, or maybe it was like 10 feet high. And from there, I found a texture of like corrugated kind of plastic look, like this. And now I have this kind of corrugated plastic, and I can adjust the scale of that, just the intensity of this. And now I just kind of use this under there. So that's what I did before, but you could just as easily do something like this with the decor that's already in here. And maybe I want to replace it with something else to see what this would look like. Just taking these kind of column looks. What else could we try? This one's kind of cool. So then you could sort of layer this. So I have these two layers. I could go to my top view here and maybe see this a little better. So I have my LED lights here, which would probably be on some type of pipe or something holding it up. Sorry, I have to kind of move around some things to make it work with these. Let's see, I got this one here. And this would be here. I think this is covering up. Just kind of moving these around so the layers are working better. Let me do this. I think I just need to make these more narrow. But I do want to use these as if they are the real size. I'm gonna move this out of the way and move this over here. All right, just had to fuss with that a little bit, but so you can see I didn't really want these to be as wide as this because they take up so much space over here, but we'll kind of probably just call it good for now. Oh, I see what happened. This is in a group with this. All right, so if something's in a group, I could also just move it by selecting it like this. So I need to just move this guy over. But I'll remove this and replace it with one of these. Something like that. Yeah, honestly, now I don't even really like these, but it's just too distracting. But I just wanted to show you how you could use one of these. If if you found the right size, you could potentially replace these with something else. These look a little better. It's I think a little awkward doing it this way because I'm kind of working backwards rather than adding these first. But we'll get it. Let me group these things so that I can just move it all as one. Okay. Those are like really bright now. Okay, so I could go in now, and if I go to my left view here, I can kind of group these together. Some of them already are grouped. This way I can change the color. And what I could do is just go to make this a little simpler. If I don't want to select them, I could just go to select all and then do uplights. It'll select all the uplights in the scene. And even though it's going to select everything else, I just want to focus on these here. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Okay, that's a little better. Alrighty then, so from now, just these back. Okay. All right, we can take a look at the screens now here that we did. So the screens are made up of two different things here. One is an option where you can just upload a simple sort of PNG cut out with transparency. So if you were to upload an image that had transparency like this logo here, you can see that it cuts it out. And you can scale it to fit correctly. And what's nice about these is obviously you could use them for like signs and things like this. But in this case, I wanted to use it as a like custom shape. And there's like two ways that you could do this. One is that you could have the graphic actually on the shape, like if it was one graphic that you knew you wanted on there. So you would maybe create this in Photoshop or Canva or something like that. And you could do it that way. But if you wanted to be able to adjust the image, what you can do then is just make it a white object, and then basically place a projector on the ground. So I'm going to go over here to projectors, screens, and then projectors. there's one projector here that doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of a prop. But the first one actually has projection coming out of it, and you can select this and adjust it as you need to. So even if you wanted these to be, let's say, LED, it's just a little bit easier to do this if you use a projector instead, because then you can project one image, let's say, over the whole thing. But if you wanted, let's say you wanted, here, I'll try to explain this here. So I put this on the floor so that it was kind of hidden, and then it was shooting up this way. So basically assuming that these are LED screens, but we're not really seeing them. So I'm going to increase the intensity back up to something. So what I might do is, let's say I want to project something different on these two images. What I would want to do is select the images and then hold shift and select the projector, and then basically turn them off. And so now what's happening is the projector is only projecting onto these two shapes. And here now what I would need to do is get a different PNG with like a different texture on it or something, and then add it in there. So if I wanted, let's say, I'll just do like this. You would then want to use this image, increase the intensity. And then this would be like a separate image that you would put up here to be some type of different content. But again, it's kind of nice to have these work with this projector, because now whatever I put on this projector will hit all of these screens at once. So I could do like this image on this projector here, and then I can change the shape of the image. I can keystone it, increase the intensity of it all, and the overall size of it too. Right now there's no real animation to this. Let me show you something though real quick. If you did want to animate something, what you could do is, let's say I remove this for the moment. What you could do is drag in or create an LED screen. So this is an LED screen here. I'm going to drag that in. I'm going to change the size to be, I don't know what size we're at here. Let's see. 42 feet. So we'll do 42 by 15 or so. Maybe a little shorter. So obviously this is more of a rectangular shape now. It's an LED. But just as an example, if you wanted to throw on an image here, what I can do is make this image animate. And if this is a seamless texture or image, so something like this. Now, well, maybe that's not seamless. It will now animate seamlessly like that. So now maybe I do. So this is kind of how you can get some quick and simple animation. The animation on screens right now is a little bit difficult to do as far as like being able to, let's say, upload an animation or something like that, just because of the way the program works and everything. So as kind of an alternative at the moment, you do something like this, which will allow you to get a seamless texture just animated, and it runs really smoothly this way. So it's kind of just, again, just an alternative. And check some things here. Okay, so that's an example of some animation there. I want to do something a lot brighter. I tend to like doing these sets with super bright colors. Select these lights that are behind here. Can adjust the color of these guys. My camera's off. I think these got ungrouped somehow. Group. And make that color. And then I can't figure out. I think that's just being lit by the stage wash there, maybe. I don't know what's hitting that. Let me see here. If I go turn these down, it's not that. Yeah, I think it's that. I'm just adjusting these to make this thing look the same as it does over here. All the subtle details, that's better. And then I probably want to move this over here. This is where I get zoned in onto one thing. I guess I had this lower before. Okay, something like that. Now we have no stage wash on our main person here. Oops. Okay, pretty cool there. I guess I should explain the next thing. Just at this point, I start getting into the details of the color and all this and start having fun. I got these cool lights hitting over here. If I turn this haze on, it's going to get really... get a lot of that brightness of those lights happening there. Increase this even a little bit more, or just decrease the haze and turn up these lights a bit. Let's do this. Increase the haze. Select these lights. And decrease them a little. Yeah, all right, I'm getting too zoned into the lighting real quick. All right, let's turn that off for the moment. And okay, now at this point, I think I'll just explain I guess one other thing, two other things. One is that the screen right here obviously is just a rectangle. What I had before was a round sort of screen with rounded edges to it. At the moment, we don't have a screen with rounded edges to it. So the couple ways to do this, one would be importing a image that has rounded edges like this, right? And then you just scale it up and get those rounded edges like this. And you can adjust the screen from there. Let me move this back a little. So something like that. And this is way too low. So this just needs to be... something like that. Okay, moving on. So yes, you could import an image like that, or to make a sort of custom shape. I also did another option, which is right here, or where's that at? Right here. So this object is a rectangle with some circles on the corners. So just like we made the stage, basically, if I unlock this group, you'll see that there's a rectangle in the middle, at the top, and then on all corners we just have these circles. So just a quick, simple way to get this rounded corner shape. I guess it's not super quick and simple. The quickest and simplest way would just to have that object. So eventually we'll add that object in there. But for now, you could do this, and then basically if it'll be a basic shape where there's nothing on it. So if I turn this to 0, it just looks like this. So I think I set the color to be just white like that, and then make sure the intensity is at 0. And you probably want to adjust the light spill a little bit depending on the light hitting it, as well as the gloss. And then you can project onto it to be able to get this overall look here. So you can see if I have a bunch of lighting hitting it like that, I can adjust the light spill here. The gloss as well. And then I'm probably just going to make sure to move it out of the light. All right, now I might just play with my projector settings a little bit to get it to fill, keystone it a little bit. This is obviously skewed a little bit on the sides here, but I'm just trying to get a basic idea of what this could look like. Where's the motion one that I had? That was this one. I kind of like this one just because it had some motion to it. Might move that back in for now. Even though it's square. Okay. So we got that. We'll take a quick look at the lighting setup here. So if I increase the venue lighting here, if I turn on this grid, you can see this a little better. So I just kind of added in some rigging pretty simply and quickly by doing the build rigging section here. And from here you can just set the dimensions of your rigging. So I guess maybe it was around 80 feet. And this will auto-populate some rigging for you, depending on the dimensions you give it. So maybe I want 85 feet or so on. And then from there, I kind of just placed it in the area that I needed it to be. So I figured in the first scenario, we have this screen being hung by this truss here with a bunch of lighting, kind of audience lighting pointing out. You might, want to do an additional, if you duplicate this, depending on what your setup is, maybe you wanted to do another one where you're hanging some of this stuff off of it as well. But I'm sure in this scenario, there's probably plenty of ways to ground support a lot of this stuff. So I didn't bother with that at the moment. And then I just kind of tiered these out. So you have another line of truss up here, a bunch of lights hanging out that way, and then These are kind of not really attached correctly, but you don't really see them anyway. So these are supposed to be backlights shooting down this way. So you can actually see that right there, and you could adjust the color a little bit as well. And I added those in just by, if you go to lighting, you can add in backlights by this option here. So if I were to add this in, and so we'll say we want it to be about 40 feet, maybe the whole span of this, maybe like 10 lights, and from here I would drag them up. Let's say we wanted to put them at the base of this truss. And this isn't a great spot, but use something like this, and then you could either just rotate them all down, you know, like this, kind of do this sort of thing, and then individually you could move them if you wanted to. So I'm going to open the group, and then maybe I want to aim them to a specific area, like right here, and maybe you want to aim your center lights towards the front of the stage right here. You can do that. So anyways, that's going to adjust those lights a bunch, as you can see there, but that's kind of how I did that. And then I hid them behind this, and then we put these two up here, and that's pretty much it. Stage wash, same thing, I just add them from here. And then because this stage juts out a little bit, you know, to focus all of these decently throughout the stage here, you kind of want to go in and just move some of these. So I would move, let's say if I, what I would probably do is decrease the cone angle to all of these. Turn the light up pretty high. Decrease the cone angle to like this, so they're small, so you can kind of see exactly where they're pointing to. And then I would unlock the group, and then I would maybe start from the center, aim this to go just directly on her, and then just kind of follow this line here. And if you wanted to add some additional lights, maybe you did 3 more or something to kind of fill this dark spot in the back here, and maybe you fill some spaces over here too. But that just kind of depends on what you want to do there. So I'm just going to go through this. Same thing over here. These ones look good. I'd probably move these ones a little bit. And then you can kind of group them back together and adjust the intensity and the cone angle to see how they fit. I think what I did for this scenario is decrease the lighting a good amount, like this, and then just increased kind of these center lights so that basically when the presenter's speaking, they have more light on them. It's not so bright, lighting up everything else. And you can adjust the room back down. And trying to think what else. let's see. At this point, I can just play around with some stuff. I'm gonna do some seating real quick. So we could do some classroom seating maybe. Let's do this, and I'll do a couple sections. And we recently added the ability, so in the banquet round area, you have the ability to add people and some decor and stuff. In the classroom section, you, I believe, now have the ability to add people as well. Adjust the seats. We do 3. So something like this, and then maybe we could adjust the color of the tables too. I might change the floor to not be so bright. Okay, so from here, go to our saved camera views. So you can do this a couple ways. One is that you can just go into your orbit view and kind of find some camera angles and then add this plus sign and save a camera view. Do it that way. What was I going to do? I don't know why, but our stage kind of moved. 16.5. 16.5. Probably accidentally selected it and moved it, but I'll move it back. So now it's centered. Okay. And this front row of people is a little close. I might go in here, just drag over this front row and delete them. I can't remember what I was saying. I think real quick, I'm just going to do this because I wanted to do this before. I'm going to duplicate this, bring it over here, and rotate it maybe 20 degrees. Maybe even more. Kind of want to create like a section. Let's see here. Just playing around at this point. Yeah, so now this kind of encompasses the room, which in the Google Next project, that's how it was. Okay, something like that. And now I'll just do the same thing on the other side. We are working on a mirror function as well, so that you can kind of just take all of these and mirror it to the other side. But at the moment, we don't have that available yet. So I'm just going to kind of do the same thing, which won't take too long. Cool, that looks pretty cool now. What else? I think we're kind of getting near the end of this. The last couple things I would do would be to create these camera views and then probably make some renderings and some animations out of it as well. To make some renders, you can just render a 4K or an HD image out of there, of whatever camera view you're on. And then to create an animation, you can create these camera views and then just hit this animate button here, and it'll animate between your camera views that you created. Trying to think, what else? Just something to note, when you have so in this scene, we have quite a lot of lights happening here. There's a bunch of uplights, there's a bunch of lights shooting out, there's a bunch of lights up here, lights on the scenery, and then on top of that, we have some lights on the audience and stuff like that too. And then we have the haze. So when you add a ton of lights and haze to your scene, you can slow things down a little bit. So it's not too bad right now, but if I wanted to make it super smooth and to just kind of continue working, I can go into settings and I can turn the shadows off. And just with that little button there, it smooths things out a ton. And you can see like there's not as much shadows now, obviously. But it definitely helps a ton for when you're just working. And then when you want to create your rendering, you can just turn these back on. You can get those nice shadows. But again, it does slow things down a little bit for when you're working. And another way to just move things faster is turn off the haze. So these are like 2 to 3 settings you can change when you got a lot of stuff going on in your scene, to speed things up. So what I would do if I were creating a final rendering, I would probably turn on all these shadows here, so you get a really nice look there. And then the haze is on as well, so everything's kind of at full settings. And then I would create a rendering like that. But if I wanted to create a nice smooth animation, I would either turn the haze off, but I personally think that the haze gives it a lot of atmosphere and looks pretty good in this setup. So I would probably turn the audience shadows off, and then maybe even the other shadows off too, just to make it really smooth with the animation. You could potentially leave these ones on and still do it, and it'd still be okay, but it might be a little bit jittery just because in this scene there's there's a lot of stuff going on. But if I turn this off, and then let's say if I turn the haze off along with all these other settings, excuse me, you do get a lot smoother response. So let's see here. Animate. So you have a nice smooth animation here. And then I'll just show you the difference real quick. If I were to turn on some of those other settings again. All right, so let's try to do the same thing now. Let's turn on just the main shadows. So if I turn on the main shadows and do that again, it will be a little bit slower. But still not too bad. Definitely either way, still a lot better than waiting for something to render out. Okay. And then lastly, if I turn on the haze, it's going to slow things down quite a bit. So what I would probably do from here is just turn these off. And now you could do an animation with the haze on, like this. Still looks really cool and is still fairly smooth. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and end it there. I don't have too much else to discuss today. Go ahead and save. I'll leave you with the final look. Again, if I put all my settings at high, especially the audience shadows, slows it down a bit. All right, cool. We will end it there. Thanks for joining and watching. If you're watching live or later on, either way is cool. If you have any questions, shoot them over. You can either comment on the video if you wanted to, or shoot them over to me at eric@eventrender.com. If you want to see any more videos, in the future, subscribe to the channel, or go on our website and you can kind of fill out any form there and get added to our email list. If you want to demo the program, you can go on our website as well and just start a trial. And yeah, happy to go through any demos as well live, as that always helps to answer any of your questions. But all right, until next time, thanks. And if I can figure out how to end the stream, there we go.